Wakanda is done. Wakanda forever.
First of all, it's nice to see you look wonderful in your Queen Ramonda cosplay. So you've been cosplaying since 2004.
Yes.
What encouraged you to start?
Pettiness. The P in Panterona starts with petty. Basically, it's not something that I'm proud of, but I tell the story all the time. There was a convention in Trinidad and Tobago called Anime City, and there was someone that cosplayed as my favorite character at the time, Kenshin Himura, and I absolutely hated the way that they did it. And the best way to fix that, I thought, was to do it myself. So that is how I did my first cosplay, and I have been addicted to it ever since. Of course, I'm no longer that petty, so I have learned the error of my ways. But yeah, honestly, pettiness is what got me into cosplay.
What made you grow into this huge of a person that you are?
I don't know. That's a really tough question. I don't consider myself to be like a big influencer or anything in the cosplay community, so thank you for that. But when I started cosplay, I think it was way more intimate than it is now. And if you had asked me 10, 15, 20 years ago if I would be doing what I'm doing now, I'd be very, very shocked and tell you, hell no. I couldn't see this trajectory for myself. I don't know necessarily what I would attribute that wholly to, but I do think a big part of it is the encouragement that I got within the Black cosplay community, especially internationally as well. I live in Trinidad and Tobago. I am not from the United States, as you know, contrary to popular belief, I actually live there. So the internet, I think, also played a big role because it enabled me to, when I share my stuff, it's not only Trinidadians that are seeing my things, not only, you know, Caribbean people that are seeing my things. The internet made cosplay more of a global village. So I was able to, from the comfort of my home in Trinidad, share my art with people halfway across the world and, you know, hopefully inspire them. And I feel like the algorithm also was a very kind. Back in the day, it's not so kind right now. So back then you could share something and people would see your post. So yeah, I think it would be a mixture between the encouragement that I got from fellow blurs, the internet being such a good place to share your things, and also people being able to see, you know, all the work that you're doing when you actually post it. So yeah.
So you co-directed and produced 2 seasons of Project Alias.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about?
I actually am the director for Alias Entertainment Expo, which is one of the biggest, you know, comic, cosplay, anime conventions in the Caribbean. So we were actually thinking about a way in which we could reach the wider mainstream audience in Trinidad and Tobago and let them know that this exists because, you know, I would say now when I use the term cosplay in Trinidad, people know what it means. But as early as 5 to 6 years ago, when you would say cosplay, nobody knew what you were talking about. And you always have to be like, you know, the people who dress up as Spider-Man and Superman, and they're like, oh, okay, right, yeah, cool. So Project Alias was born from that and being able to share what we do to a wider audience in the mainstream. And it was shown on TV6, which is like one of our biggest local channels. So it was basically our way to help kind of market what we were doing, because we also were sending the first Trinidadian team to the World Cosplay Summit in Japan that year, and we wanted to document the process of people actually preparing for the costume competition, because that's another thing that people didn't get. I mean, if you didn't understand cosplay, you wouldn't understand the amount of effort sometimes that goes into making costumes. So we felt that a show would have been the right conduit to bring more eyes to what we were doing.
What do you think is your, I guess, well-known cosplay?
That is a hard question because I've been doing this for a very long time. But I think one of the first costumes that went super viral for me was Wonder Woman. I think that was the one where I was like, whoa, this is a lot. So I think a lot of people know me for the Wonder Woman. Some other people would have started following me for Dalsim because that was shared by Street Fighter. And I think it really depends on like which arena you're kind of in. A lot of people know me for my carnival cosplay designs, so I can't necessarily say which one, but I feel like there are a couple, that I'm known for. But you should tell me, like, which ones do you think?
I think I either saw your Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
or one of your carnival ones.
Okay.
And basically, just like you said, the algorithm on Instagram. So I was just on there one day.
Yeah.
Happened to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw your queen Ramunda on YouTube. So
Good old YouTube.
yeah, spectacular.
Yeah, thank you.
So how big is the cosplay community in the Caribbean and specifically Trinidad and Tobago?
When you say big, you mean numerically or because I don't have numerical figures for you, but I could probably compare it. Let's say we would not be able to host a Dragon Con type convention in Trinidad and Tobago. I host the biggest one, and that's around 3,000 to 5,000 people. And within that number, obviously not everybody is in cosplay necessarily. And then you have a lot of casuals, like they'll cosplay maybe once a year, once or twice to every, and then you have like the hardcore people who cosplay at every single event, which is a far smaller number of people. At one point in time, I would say we probably had a couple hundred cosplayers active. But the thing that I have noticed in the Caribbean, I don't know how true it is here, is there seems to be an ebb and flow with the number of people who are interested in cosplay. And a lot of people seem to grow out of cosplay. So they feel like, okay, I'm 25, it's time, hang it up, do something else. And then you have young people coming in and the cycle just keeps going like this. So instead of growing, we just kind of maintain a certain number of people, and then COVID hits us for 6 basically, because that killed the cosplay community a lot. And I'm only now trying to build it back to a semblance of what it was. And we started doing the Caribbean Cosplay Championship again, and we're really proud of that. And we had the biggest one this year because we were able to get people from Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, Barbados, and Guyana to take part in it. So it's getting there. I don't think numerically we would be anywhere close to America or any other place, but I feel like the Caribbean region, we're doing okay. We're doing all right.
For any blurs in Trinidad or Tobago, and they want to get into cosplay, do you have any advice for them, or any, I guess, help or something like that?
People always ask about it, and I feel like cosplay is one of the easiest things that you could actually do, because the best advice is to just do it. It really does depend on what type of cosplay you want to do. For example, if you want to do something like this, child, you have to put aside some time. But if you want to do I'm gonna be cosplaying Jessie from Toy Story on Sunday. That did not take a lot of time. That was Amazon. A lot of that was Amazon, and a lot of 5 minutes or so in. So it really just depends on what level you want to enter in on. It could be as simple as ordering a costume online, which you can do now. When I started in 2004, that was not an option. We did not have colored wigs. We didn't have any of those things. That was a figment of our collective imagination. So, y'all are starting from a huge advantage now in 2024, where you could order all these things online and just get your costumes. So I think it's easier now more than ever to get started in cosplay.
What's a positive or impactful memory that you have that was brought to you by cosplaying?
This is a recurring decimal, I would say, but it happens all the time, and it's the joy that you see on children's faces when you cosplay characters that adults find all sorts of issues with. So I will cosplay as Wonder Woman, and white kids, black kids, Indian kids, everybody, they just see Wonder Woman. They don't see anything else, and those interactions to me will always reverberate, and they will always be something that I go back to, because as many times as there are negativity and stuff online that we face, when you actually think about stuff like that, it kind of keeps you going in a sense. So yeah, all and any interactions with children, they can be menaces, But they can be really, really nice and really, really sweet sometimes. And it's just their innocence and their ability to just see you as the character that I always find a really positive kind of interaction.
You say like some people grow out of it, like 25, trying to hang it up and everything. What kept you going?
That's a very good question. I've always been a very artistic person, so I feel like cosplay was just one of the really good avenues for me to express myself artistically. I do fashion design, I draw, I act, like I do a lot of things that lend itself very well to cosplay. So I think I'm doing it still because it gives me the opportunity to kind of do all of those things, but all in one. You know, because like the pretty fashion element of it, I'm not modeling my own designs. For the acting element of it, sometimes I'm not in my own designs. But cosplay kind of makes you put all those things together where you become the character and you're actually emulating and creating and like, you know, from start to finish, something that was in your head. So yeah, I feel like that's why I'm still here. I don't know how long I'll still be here, but you know, see how it goes.
Now, you mentioned the convenience of Amazon and how you can just order a costume and you didn't have colored wigs. Are there any other like major differences between cosplay now and when you started in 2004?
Well, I mean, you touched on a big part of it there. Not necessarily only Amazon and wigs, but just material availability, like in general. I remember back in the day, it was a dream to try to even do a proper armored cosplay build, and then all of a sudden, Warbler came and revolutionized the entire game. And then people are making things out of Warbler that they shouldn't probably be making out of Warbler. And it's the same thing that's kind of happening now with 3D printing, where, okay, let's put Warbler to the side for a minute, and now everybody's 3D printing literally everything and things you don't even need to 3D print. People are 3D printing. So it's like it's a cyclical thing, where every generation, if you want to use that term, there are new advancements in materials that you could use and technology and stuff that didn't exist in a prior generation. So that's a general thing. Also, I feel like people have become a lot more educated on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Like I used to cosplay back in the day of yaoi paddles. You know, don't Google it. You know, it was a different time. It was a different time. Consent, as we know it back then, is not what it is today. You know, the whole issue, we had to fight for that whole blackface thing. There's a lot of things that I feel like back then are a lot different now because people have spoken out on certain things and people have become a lot more knowledgeable on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable within the community. So yeah, I feel like there's been a cultural shift in terms of the types of cosplay. Back in the day, it was all one-to-one, has to be accurate, has to be accurate. Now you're seeing people doing their own takes, there's mashups, they're doing like, you know, Star Wars meets Pokemon meets whatever. It's become its own thing, you know? So I feel like I don't know where it's gonna end up, but there's been a lot of changes between like what cosplay was in 2004 to where it is now.
How did you learn how to craft? Where did you pick those skills up from?
Ooh, another good question. My mom was a seamstress, so I used to help her a lot with sewing. And on top of that, again, I was always a very artistic, crafty person, so a lot of things just came very naturally to me. Like nobody had to teach me how to paint. Nobody had to teach me how to do those things because I always was painting, I was always drawing, I was always drawn to some element of craft, you know. And then practice makes perfect. So the first time you do it, it's probably not going to be as great. It's the second time you do it, and the third time you do it. And after doing it for 20 years, you kind of get really good at doing things. But the core basic skills of like sewing, I would definitely give to my mom. She's a seamstress, and she used to do like little things that give me stuff to rip out. And then one day I was like, listen, I need to know how to make this. And she was like, okay, because she doesn't teach. And I had to walk her through teaching me how to make these things. And I was making notes, like as she was saying it. And then for a couple of months, I kept referring to those notes until I don't need to refer to the notes anymore because it's kind of second nature. I know how to draft, I know how to do those things. But yeah, it's a mixture between bothering my mother and over time just accumulating different skills. Because sometimes, like for costume competitions, I try to learn a different skill. This outfit I did for a costume competition this year, and I hadn't done a lot of beadwork or embroidery with metallic thread, so I decided to hand embroider the whole thing. And now I can do hand embroidery really well, and I paid the price. But yeah, every time I try to make a big costume, I try to do something that I've never done before, and over time you just kind of, like the Infinity Stones, you just keep collecting all the different skills.
So you have been, recognized internationally to the point where you can now judge others' cosplay. So as an international cosplay judge, what do you look for when you're judging other people's cosplay?
That tends to usually be guided within the remit of the rubric of the particular competition. So each competition has something different. Like I believe the World Cosplay Summit and some of the other contests are 50% craftsmanship, 50% performance, and then they break down what those elements would be, whether it's accuracy or fidelity, whether it's the level of difficulty, the number of skills. Like they tend to break it down and then you just follow the rubric. Personally, for my own competition, I look for not only the number of skills, but the level of execution of those skills. I don't like people playing cosplay bingo with skills in their costumes. As in, how many skills can I throw on a costume? And then they're not all executed very well. I would much rather you do something that you could do really, really well and do that, and maybe one or two things that you want to try, rather than, try to do 10 different skills in a costume and you're a jack of all trades and a master of none. So that's basically a general piece of advice I can give.
How do you deal with con crunch?
I don't. I'm really bad. I just came from helping a friend in the middle of a con crunch. It's bad. It's bad. I try generally not to do it, but I always seem to fall within the dark hole that is con crunch. It was so bad this year that even on my schedule of like costumes that I was posting, Thursday I took the Captain Crunch logo, crossed out Captain and put con, because I was like, that's me. Thursday, I'm in the con crunch. Do not talk to me. But yeah, if it's for something like important like a competition, I try not to do that at all, because again, I want to keep my mind in the game for actually what I'm there for. But a lot of times what I find myself doing is I'll be good, and then like a week before the event, I'll be like, you know what would be really cool? What if I were to do this? And then I hyper focus on that, and then I'm in con crunch again. So, at this point, I think it's genetically a part of my makeup. I don't know, but don't be like me. Do not be like me. Con crunching is not good. It is not good. Don't do it. Yeah, sometimes I get away from it because, especially like for guesting opportunities and stuff, I have a lot of costumes that I could like carry and bring, but my friends are always trying to talk me out of it because I'm always like, you know what I can do? And I'm like, no, you have enough costumes. Like, what? No. So yeah, Jessie from Toy Story came 2 days ago, and my friend was actually messaging me like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And I was like, I don't know. I have a problem. So yeah.
Awesome.